and we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Bill O'Reilly. All right, so the topic of today is that we're in a cult. We are in a cult. We're in a cult. We're all in a cult, and it's called America. It's called the U.S. government is a giant cult. Now, one faction of U.S. government is not a cult, and that would be the executive branch of the U.S. government. Apparently, that part is the only part that's not part of a cult. There might be some cult members that have weaseled their way in there, but we know for a fact that there is a cult, and it's a weird cult, and it's not even just the Jews. I know people like to focus on the Jews because there's this Jewish mafia. They like to blame the Jews for everything, and I've been blaming the Jesuits for everything. So some people like to blame the Jews for everything. Some people like to blame the Jesuits for everything. But I don't know. It's not just that. It's bigger than that. But maybe this cult is like an arm of that. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. But this is a weird cult. And so here's the thing, dude. We don't have a country yet. We're still in a cult. And we've been in this weird cult for a while in America. I don't know how long. Maybe it's been like 100 years or something. And it rules over America and it rules over Europe. But it's this, and it's Christian. It's a Christian cult. Okay, it is a Christian cult. It's a Christian race mixing cult. Now, if you're race mixed, I'm not against you personally. If you're like half Asian, half white, half black, white, half whatever. That's not a problem for me. I love everybody. But the thing you have to understand, so that's different than what I'm talking about. This is some cult. This is like an actual cult. It's an actual Christian cult. And the whole thing that it imposes on everyone is you have to do like it's not that some people are race mixed and some aren't. That's not the thing. In this cult, that's their whole religion is race mixing. So it's this weird race mixing cult. It's not that some people do race mixing. I'm not against that. I'm just saying I never agreed to be in a race mixing cult. You see what I mean? There's a difference there. I never joined a race mixing cult, but this race mixing cult is being imposed on America. And so it's really weird, man. And it's Christian. It's Christian. And that's why I never go to any Christian churches anywhere. And whether it's Catholic or if it's Protestant or whatever it is, I avoid all of them because they're all like this. They're all race mixing cults. And like I said, I'm not against people who are race mixed or people that even want to do race mixing. But I just don't, that's not my thing. I'm just not into it. And I get along with other races. Like I've got people I work with and they're, some of the best, like if you ask people like if you think what I'm saying is racist and then you talk to people that are like different races that know me, they're like, that guy's great. He's super generous. When I work with him, he's really great. He pays me good. You know what I mean? Like with the people I do business with that are different races, they love me and I like them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an actual cult, right? I'm talking about you're in a cult and they force this on everyone through the law. So you can't escape it. You're in a cult and it's run out of Washington, D.C. So the headquarters of this cult are Washington, D.C. But this same cult is imposing. So the whole thing about the cult, right? You got to understand, it's a race mixing. It's a Christian race mixing cult, and they claim to be that they're the conservatives and they're the libertarians, and the whole thing is just race mixing. That's the whole thing about it. That's the whole agenda. And so this Rodriguez guy, Fernando Rodriguez, he's the judge from Texas that Trump foolishly appointed. He's a member of the cult. And so it's a bunch of them. And they all come out, a lot of them, not all of them, but because there's different arms of the cult, right? You've got the Christian conservative arm, the libertarian Christian conservative arm. The cult, you got to understand that the core of the cult, the core ideology of the cult is some weird race mixing thing. And so then they have different like avenues and how they do that. And it's all based in Washington, D.C., right? So they've got this Christian one. They've also got the Anti-Defamation League, which is part of it. And the Jesuits are part of it, right? But this one has to do with the law, the jurisprudence or the courts. And so they've captured the courts. And a lot of it that I'm looking at right now is this Federalist Society. It is an actual cult. And they all have the same look on their face. Okay. They all have the same weird look on their face. It's this weird, it's the smile. Okay. If you've ever seen these Christians and they smile like this, I'm so happy, like that. It's not a real smile. They all have that look on their face. They all have that look on their face. They're not. There's something weird about them, right? It's like they're in a cult, man. And so the whole thing that they do is they push race mixing. It's literally a race mixing cult. So so this is, and so when I go, like, so I'm looking at this Fernando Garcia, right? Because Trump's deporting. Trump basically, he got into office because he's the president of the United States, which means he's the chief law enforcement officer of the nation, and his job is to enforce the borders and to back the military, and like it's, all the laws that are made and created by the Congress and by the Senate are then enforced by the president of the United States. He's in job. His whole job is to enforce the law. So over the last 200 years, America has created laws which then need to be enforced. And then when Trump goes to enforce them, this group of judges is working to block it because they actually have been put in place because it's a cult. It's an actual cult. And the goal of the cult is to race mix. That's the entire purpose of the cult. It doesn't exist really for any other reason, just to do race. It literally just exists for race mixing. It's a race mixing cult. That is their whole religion. And it's masked in Christianity. And I'm seeing it all over the place. All the Christian churches in America, except for the authentic Eastern Orthodox variants that are still practicing Christianity. Because let me give you an example. In Eastern Orthodox, which we'll call Greek, Coptic, Syriac, Armenian, Ukrainian, Russian, whatever, right? All that Eastern Orthodox religion. See, in Christianity, you're part of a culture, right? And you're part of you're like, that's called a race. Your culture, your race, like the Syrian race or the Egyptian race. It's a race of people. It's a group of people with a common culture and ethnic identity. See, that's called a race. And so in Christianity, there's different races, and then then they have their churches, right? And so then what they do is that they're able to maintain their religion and their race and their culture through their religion, right? And so that's in the East. Now in the West, under Catholicism and then all of its subsets, which came out of really America after the fall, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to go into the whole the establishment. Like, I don't want to repeat myself over and over again, but the establishment of the District of Columbia, the Jesuit operation, the forward operating base of the Jesuits, which took out all the kings and brought in this new order. And the whole goal of it was to race mix everybody. So it took a while to get to this point, but now the religion of the Western version of Christianity, which is really it's a cult. It's not authentic Christianity. It's just some cult. The Western version of it is to race mix everybody. So it's turned into this race mixing agenda masked as Christianity. And so when you drive around and you see the churches, they've got the rainbows and the BLM and the LGBT, right? And then they promote race mixing and they promote gay this and that, and they promote gays adopting. This is the new cult, right? And this is all run by Christian that aren't really Christians. It's just a cult, and they all think they're Christians or whatever. It's just it's a weird Christian cult that came out of the West, that came out of the dominion of the Jesuit order of Washington, D.C. Is my volume screwed up? No, it should be okay. It gets too crackly if it's too high. So I'm just looking at this, and am I on here? Yeah. So I'm looking at this, and so we got this Fernando Rodriguez. He's got this weird look on his face, and he's part of the cult. And then I look at the things he's part of. He's part of this thing called the international, what is this? The IJM.org. It's the international, it's some international justice thing. And then you look at, I like go to, it's the global leadership. It's a globalist organization. And they're all part of this weird Christian cult, right? And they've all got that same weird look on their face. Like there's something inauthentic about them. And they're all into the race mixing. And they've got these goofy looks on their faces and they're into the race. So they all race mix and have goofy looks on their face. See, here's the thing. No, like normal people don't, it's race mixing just makes people uncomfortable, right? And so you know, hey, that cringy kind of like discomfort, like uncomfortable feeling where you're forced race mixing. I mean, if you just have relations with other races, that's normal. But this kind of like forced race mixing thing, it's just like it's just cringe, right? And so then they get this cringy smile, and that's what they look like. They have the cringy smile look, and it's just weird. It's just flipping weird, man. And it's that whole weird fake Christian smile where they're really, it's you know I blame, you know what, I think it all goes back to is people having just weird interpretations of the Bible. Maybe that's what it is. But it's a weird cult. Now the other person that's part of this cult, other than this Fernando Rodriguez judge who just blocked Trump's Aliens Enemies Act. See, we've got all these people. Here's what happened. So Joe Biden, who was a Catholic and worked for the Pope, opened the border and let like 20 million people just flood in, right, illegally. And then when Trump goes to kick them out, they're like, "Oh no, they need to go through a process." So literally, right there, it's the courts. The courts are being used by this cult to keep them here, right? And so that's the whole thing, and so the whole operation is to force this on Americans. And so the other person that does this is, you know, that other, who's that lady Trump appointed? I think she was from the Federalist Society too. This is the whole. So here, let me read you what it says. Here's the Federalist Society about us, our purpose. Law schools and the legal profession are currently strongly dominated by a form of orthodox liberal ideology which advocates a centralized and uniform society. While some members of the academic community have dissented from these views, by and large, they are taught simultaneously, with and indeed as if they were the law. In other words, we're the libertarians. We're against the liberals. Notice how it's the same shit you hear all the time. It's the same shit you hear from the stupid Republicans all the time. Well, it's the liberals. They're just so liberal. They want uniform liberal orthodoxy. First of all, they're not liberals. They're promoting the same thing as your cult. You're just doing it in a different way. You're doing it from another angle. You're both in the same stupid cult. You're both in the same stupid cult, which is a race mixing cult. And the whole object of your cult is to race mix. It doesn't have any other purpose. And the reason why it does that specifically is because the people who are in charge of the financial centers around the globe want America and Europe race mix. They're the whole agenda since from starting in last century into this new century of the 2000s into the 3000s, the whole purpose is to completely race mix white populations of North America and Europe. That's the whole agenda. That's been the whole agenda. That's why it's so weird, because I'm not against people who are race mixed, but why is that your whole agenda? Why is that your whole thing? And it's not, and so it's actually just dangerous for me to even say that, because the US government has laws that require race, like you're required to race mix. It's by law, federal law forces race mixing. And so this is all the creation of a cult. Now, it's Amy Comey Barrett is the other one. So the other odd thing about it, I think she was part of this Federalist Society too. Was she? Let me see. Amy Comey Barrett, Federalist Society. And she's also Catholic. Is she at the Federalist Society? Yes. See, she's another one. And if you look at what she does, right? If you look up what her family looks like. They adopt black babies from Haiti. It's just weird. Okay, it's just weird. Like if you're black, isn't that a little offensive? I'm sorry. See, I don't hate black people. I just understand, like, see, I just find race mixing to be weird. Okay, I just think I think it's okay on like naturally if you have naturally you know good relations with someone of another race, that's normal. But the whole like we're gonna adopt black babies stuff, to me, that's weird. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's so creepy. Why don't you just let those black people be like, why are you getting all involved in their life? Like, there's something creepy about it. And it is a cult. It's a cult. And the other person that does that is Mike Johnson. Is he from the Federalist Society? Let's look it up. Mike Johnson. Because Mike Johnson, see, Mike Johnson. So Amy Comey Barrett's one of them. And I think her sister did the thing. Yeah, Mike Johnson, Federalist Society. They're all from the Federalist Society. And they all have that stupid, weird cult look on their face. And they all push race mixing as the whole, that's like part of their cult religion is to race mix. It's not that, hey, look, race mixing, some people are race mixed, that's fine. No, this is their religion is to race mix. It's just it's like a weird cult. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm against people who are race mixed or even who do that. I'm just saying it's a like this isn't just that. This is a cult. It's a literal religious cult where you race mix with blacks and you adopt black babies. It's weird. It's weird. And so it's this Federalist Society, and they're like, we're the conservatives. We race mix. We buy black babies. It's weird. So check it out. Mike Johnson, right? When Mike Johnson, he's okay, just imagine how freaking weird this is. Okay, just imagine, like, okay, are you a normal person like I am? Okay, I don't hate other races at all. Like, I don't hate people because I might try to avoid some neighborhoods because they're more dangerous if you're white, right? Like, I'm okay, that's real, okay? But I'm just saying, I'm not against other races. I like the white race. I like my race. I like Europeans' culture. So I'm for my race, but I'm not against other people's races. But realistically, I mean, if you let's say you're a white guy like me, and you marry a beautiful young lady, right? You're in your 20s, right? You're 20, you're just newly married, right? You're 20 years old. Your wife is this young, good-looking, blonde woman, and then you adopt like a 16 or 17-year-old black young man. What a weird thing to do. That's Mike Johnson did that. Federalist Society. I'm telling you, it's not. See, that is weird. Okay, that is a weird. That's not a normal thing to do. That's not normal. It's not that I'm against people who, okay, fall in love with someone over another. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying it's weird to have a cult that does that. Like, it's part of the cult. It's weird that it's like part of the cult that I adopted this black boy and we're adopting these black babies. And it's this whole thing in Washington, D.C., because it's Mike Johnson, it's Amy Coney Barrett, and it's her sister, and it's and this Judge Rodriguez guy is part of it. And they all have that weird look on their face. And then it's also on the other side. It's Adam Schiff is over there with the black Haitian babies, and they literally like Adam Schiff, right? The guy from the U.S. Congress, or he's like over there with like little black girls, and he's like kissing them and putting them on his lap, like little babies, little black babies that are like maybe 2-3 years old. What the hell is that, dude? That is so weird. No, okay, look. Normal people don't do that. Normal people don't do that. No race, no normal person of any race does stuff like that. Black people don't do that with white babies. That's just weird. Like, there's no black people doing that with a white baby because it's weird. Okay, it's freaking weird. Asians aren't doing that. People from China aren't like adopting black babies and going to the black orphanages because it's unusual. It's not normal. It's like an affront to God, because if you think of God as being the creator of the natural world and the natural order of the universe, there's different races, and races have their own culture and they have their own traditions, and they look like one another, right? And so this weird Christian cult that's based in Washington, D.C. is trying to say that that's all wrong and that's all bad, and we've got to get over that. You're trying to get over God. You're saying that God is wrong. You're at war with God. That's not Christianity, right? That's not Christianity. That's why I'm giving you the example of the Eastern Orthodox churches, whether it's the Greek or the Syriac or the Armenian or the Coptic or the Russian or Albanian or Serbian. You see, in those Christian churches, they have a church for their people. We're the Serbians. We're the Ukrainians. We're the Egyptians. See what I mean? They're different races, and they have different. See the thing that's normal because they're not at war with God's design. That's what's so weird about this cult is that it's against God's design of having different races, and they're trying to destroy it all. They're trying to destroy it all, and then they all have this look. They smile like this. I'm so happy. Oh, that's what they look like. That's what they look like. They look weird. They look weird, and they're all over the place. And so that's like okay, because in California, that's California. That's what California looks like. It's got all these weird Christian cults that do exactly that, except for the ones that come over from Russia or Ukraine or Greece or Egypt or Syria or somewhere, or Armenia. They don't do that because they're not crazy. But the ones that are under the Washington D.C. weird cult stuff, that's what I'm talking about. That's Irvine, California. That's all of Irvine looks like that. It looks like all of Irvine looks exactly like this weird cult called the IJM or the Federalist Society Board of Directors. And notice how all the corporations in the US, they all look like this now. They all look like there's a black woman and a white guy and an Asian guy and a Hispanic guy. Like everything's mixed because it's a cult. Because it is a cult. Because it's a cult. It's a weird cult. And it's a weird Christian cult because it's not just the Jews forcing this on everyone. These people are just weird. They're just weird Christian, weird cult members that have a weird it's an anti-God. It's anti-God. See, anytime you get into this weirdness, any type of weirdness is anti-God. Whether it's whatever it is. Anytime when there's natural you're naturally repulsed by certain things, right? You have a natural repulsion to things because you come from God and God has a design. And so you naturally find certain things repulsive culturally. They're just not cultural norms, right? That's just not normal. Whatever it is, it's a variety of things, right? Because you come from God. And so when you try to overcome that, then you're at war with God. You think God was wrong in how he designed, or they've got some weird philosophy. I don't know what it is. That this is, I know what it is. It's the whole like, we're all one. We're just one people and we're just one race and there's no races. See, well, there are races. That's so see, what you're saying is not true, right? We're not all one, and there's not just one race. There's different races. Just like there's different species of all kinds of animals in the world. So man is part animal and part God. That's what a man is. A man and a woman. The human race is part animal and part God together in one being. So the human body is part it's part animal, but it's also part God. So it's like a mix. But that's God's design. But there's different races of man, and that's all just normal. That's how God designed it. But these weird Christian cults are trying to overcome it. So now here's the other thing. So look, if so as far as like the people that founded America go, okay. America, so like these Federalist Societies say they're like, they've got pictures, like the Federalist Society has like pictures of who's the Madison? Is that what who's this guy? Is that Madison? I think it's Madison. Yeah, Madison. Is that Madison? Let me look up Madison. So they've got a picture of like Madison, President. No, Madison Grant. No, not Madison Grant. Madison. What was his first name? James Madison. Right, James Madison. He was a founding father. Now, why did because I guess he's the one that set up like. He was the one that designed federalism, right? So they've got like Madison and they've got pictures of him, right? But then they're all promoting race mixing. Well, Madison didn't promote race mixing. So here's the weird thing about this cult is that they cloak themselves in the trappings is a fancy word, the trappings, which means the trappings. Let me look up that word for you because I didn't even really know. I know how to use it, but trappings meaning. Trappings, the outward signs, features, or objects associated with a particular situation, role, or thing. So you're like, it's the outward features or objects associated with something. So like it's the trappings of the founding fathers of America. The symbols. Let's put it this way: the symbols associated with America, right? So the Federalist Society uses the symbols associated with America to promote their race mixing cult through the legal system. So the whole legal system has been taken over by a race mixing cult, by a Christian race mixing cult, and it's allied with the Anti-Defamation League, which also pushes race mixing and gay homosexual marriage and all kinds of stuff with little kids. Like literally, the Anti-Defamation League on their own website at adl.org sells books that homosexuals can read to babies 0 to 3 or young adults, teenagers, written by actual pedophiles. And so the ADL promotes these on their website. It's the same books they sell at these like liberal bookstores, right? Quote unquote liberal, satanic. Any bookstore that has like that's run by the so-called Democrat Party, which is not the party of Andrew Jackson or Thomas Jefferson. They use the trappings. That's the whole point. They use the trappings of America. They use the trappings or the symbols of Madison, the symbols of the founding fathers, the symbols of the Democrat Party, of Andrew Jackson, of Thomas Jefferson, or the symbols of George Washington, right? They use the symbols of those things to push what? To push some weird cult agenda, which is out of the Jesuit order and the Jewish mafia, which is the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, and these weird Christian cults like this Federalist Society. It's just a weird cult. It's a weird race mixing cult that promotes race mixing, and I predict, I know that. So they also promote homosexual marriage. So it's race mixing and homosexual marriage. It's the exact same. That's the whole thing. That's their religion. That's why look, I drive by this one church. It's some kind of Protestant whatever church. I don't even know what it is. The Catholic Church has a rainbow on it too, but this other one is a Protestant one, and they have a sign out, and it's a political thing. It's like they're against deportations and they're against Trump and they're, you know what I mean? It's like it has nothing to do with Christianity. It's just a weird cult that's part of this race mixing cult that's organized in Washington, D.C., and they're connected to the Federalist Society. They're connected to the Anti-Defamation League, and that's what's running everything. It's all run by a cult. It's not even a real government. So my point is they use the symbols of the founding fathers. They use the symbols of Madison. They use the symbols of Jefferson. They use the symbol of George Washington, the symbol of Washington, D.C., which frankly isn't really that great of one since it was founded by Jesuits. But they even use the symbols of Freemasonry to give it more credibility because, this is from the founding. But really, it's just a weird Christian or cult that's connected to a lot of other cults. And the point of what I'm getting to is the founding fathers, George Washington, Madison, Jefferson, they didn't support race mixing. They weren't race mixers. They were literally white supremacists. That's what they were. And when they created America, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's good or bad, it's just reality. It's just a fact. It's just the truth, is that the founding fathers of America founded America for white people. That's why that's what they founded it for. They founded America as a government, the U.S. government founded by George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and Adams and all the other guys, founded it for the white race. Whether you think that's good or bad, I'm just saying that's the truth. It wasn't founded as a race mixing thing. So it has so the whole race mixing thing is some other made up bullshit. And if you're race mix, I'm not against you. Or if you're doing race, I'm not against you. I'm just saying there's a cult I'm saying that there is a cult that forces that on everybody through Washington D.C. and they've taken over Washington D.C. and this is their religion. That's what I'm saying. It's not my religion, and it wasn't the religion of the founding fathers. The founding fathers did not create America to be a race mixing cult. The founding fathers created America because they were white people. It was mostly the French and the Dutch and the English. Okay. And on my family, I'm French because my last name's Nato. They came from French Canada. And on my mother's side, they're called Pennsylvania Dutch because they were farmers from Indiana. But actually, the last name, which is Pullum, is English. So I fit all the categories. I fit every category. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, although according to Benjamin Franklin, I might not even be white enough. According to Benjamin Franklin, nobody was white enough for Benjamin Franklin. So anyway, so what I'm saying is, that's not that whatever this race mixing cult is. That's not what the founding fathers founded it for. They wrote the Naturalization Act in 1790 that defined an American as a free white person, a free white person, a free white person. That's what an American was, according to, and it was signed by George Washington, a free white person. So that meant that African Americans that were brought here as slaves weren't Americans at the time, and none of the Indian tribal people that were here on the land, they weren't considered Americans, so they weren't part of the government. So what that means is they weren't part of the government, and then they didn't have a vote. They didn't get to vote in the government because it wasn't for them. It wasn't theirs. It was only for the white people. They could have their own government. All these different Indian tribes, they could have had their own government and they could have had their own thing. But it wouldn't have influenced the white people who had their own government. And you're like, well, that's not fair. That's true. It's not fair. But the thing is, but now you're getting into something. What you're getting into is, so it's only fair if everybody gets to be in it. Is that what? So but the thing is, here's the problem with that. White people don't get to be in everybody else's government. In other words, let me give you an example. If the white people go to the Cherokee or the Apache or some other Indian tribe and go, like right now, there's Indian reservations. So if I show up there and go, hey, I get to be part of your government. I get to have the same rights as everybody else. They'll say, get the fuck out of here, dude. You're not one of us. Get the fuck out of here. And if I go to China and I say, I have a right to be just as Chinese as everybody, and I get to be in the government, I could even become the president of China. They go, get the fuck out of here. You're not Chinese. What are you doing here? So the thing is, you could say, well, that's not fair because your race is in a position of power and you have all the influence over the resources. And that's true that the white race had that in North America, and the Chinese have that in China. And there's African areas where they control everything. The Africans do. So what I'm saying is, you're right. It's not fair. If I go to Africa, I can't go to Africa and start bossing everyone like, hey, I'm just like you. I'm just as whatever as you, and I should be the president. No, you can't because of your race. That's what the Africans will tell you. They'll go, well, because you're not one of us, you have no say. You have no right to say these things, and you don't have a right to be part of our thing because you're not one of us. And this is our thing, not your thing. See, because that's God's design. And maybe you think that's unfair or that it's terrible, but guess what? That's God's design. That's how God designed it. That's the natural world of the universe. That's how it is. People have a natural repulsion to race mixing. They have a natural repulsion to race mixing. They don't. Most people just are repelled by it. They don't like it. They find it cringy, weird, unusual, strange, not normal. And so the only thing I can recommend is that there's the other point is part of this cult is this whole thing of equality. The fact of the matter is, you will never have equality in this universe because no two things in this universe are equal. Nothing. There's nothing in this universe that are equal. Not one thing. Even things that look identical aren't equal. You could have two things that look exactly the same, like my two fingers. They might look exactly the same. They're not equal. They are not equal. And on these glasses, you could have There's two lenses on the glasses. Maybe they look the same. They're not equal. They're not even remotely equal. You will never find anything in this universe that is equal to anything else ever. So if this is your political ideology, it's rooted in lies. How can you have a political system rooted in a falsehood and expect it to be successful? You can't. The only thing you can do to be successful is to try to create social systems and economic systems and political systems that are rooted in natural law, and that's the best you can do because it's based on natural law. It's based on the natural behavior of people and the natural operations of the ebb and flow of the universe. That's the only thing you can do. Everything else is a gigantic waste of time. Hence America. Hence why America, every city in America is a toilet. Like I was looking at, oh, where could I buy a house? Oh, I could buy a house over here. I could buy a house over there. And you look around and it's like, well, even like you take some place like San Francisco, you think, well, I could go live up there and it's beautiful, it's beautiful surroundings and the houses are really expensive, but you're surrounded by this whole cult thing that's all forced on you by Washington, D.C. This whole race mixing cult weird shit. It's like, well, I don't want to live around that. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to invest in that. In other words, it's a bad investment. America has become a bad investment because the basic ideology of America is based on this weird race mixing cult ideology, which isn't rooted in the logos of God, which is the reasoning of God of creating the universe and the order in which it was created. So it's not based on that. So it's a bad investment. And until we overcome that, we're in a lot of trouble. And it seems that that we have one branch of the government, the executive branch, which is kind of like moved away from that because that's what we voted for. But unfortunately, this cult is in all these other branches of government and they keep getting elected. And we don't know, I know it, but a lot of people don't realize that this is a real cult and that they're going to keep pushing this stuff. And the only way to get out of it is to put a stop to them so that they're no longer in positions of power. They have to be cleaned out. And the way that Trump is doing it seems like pretty good because he's going based off merit. So he's just going, well, we'll have anybody. You just have to be the best person for the job. So that's a merit-based society, which is an improvement over the equality-based society because there's no such thing as equality. There is such a thing as merit. So you could have a merit-based society that's at least still based on some kind of natural order. When you get into an equality-based society, you've left the natural order of the universe. So Trump is trying to set up a meritocracy, and he's trying to accomplish these things through a meritocracy, which I think could be successful potentially, but ultimately it still does not solve this problem of the purpose of the state. So one of the things that this Federalist Society says under about frequently asked questions. See, they say that the purpose of the state, it says the purpose of the state. Okay. It says that the purpose of the state here, what does it say? It says it is founded on the principles that the state exists to preserve freedom. That's not true. The state does not exist to preserve freedom. That's not the purpose of a state, is to preserve freedom. What does that even mean? Freedom to do what? Freedom for two men to purchase babies like Dave Rubin or Pete Buttigieg? Is that what you're talking about? Is that you're talking about freedom? See, that's what that would be included, right? So that's not the purpose of the state. If you looked at what the purpose of the state was when George Washington signed the Naturalization Act in 1790, it was to provide a state, a government for the race. So the state existed for the race because he said that a naturalized citizen in 1790, signed by George Washington, said that a citizen was a free white person. So that's what the government, that's what the founding fathers said. They didn't say it was to preserve freedom. They said it was that the state was for a free white person because it was for the race. So you could that suggests that the state exists for the benefit of the race and the preservation of the race and the perpetuation of the race. And that's been true, and that's always been true for every race and every government on earth. Races form into political units called government, right? And so if you live in take any race of people on the earth, they will form a government, and the purpose of the government will be to benefit their race, their people. So the state doesn't exist to preserve freedom. See now, free. There are certain natural freedoms, or how do you want to put this? They've confused the picture. Look, the founding fathers said when they wrote the laws is that there was a thing called natural rights. That a person naturally has the right to speak their mind. A person naturally owns property. Because if you're on a deserted island and and with one or two other people and everybody brought one object with them, everybody says this is mine and that's yours and this is mine and that's yours. There's no government there to enforce that. It comes about naturally. These are called natural rights. And so those natural rights like freedom of speech and freedom of conscience and freedom to believe and practice your religion the way that you want to. Those are preserved. Those are codified because those are natural rights. They occur naturally. And self-defense, that's a natural right. You have a right to defend your life against an attacker. But they've tried to they've tried to get rid of all that. They've tried to get rid of free speech. They try to get rid of natural rights. And of course, the Federalist Society jumps on that and says, "Oh, we're a libertarian. We're the constitutionalists. Put us in power." But really, it's a Christian race mixing cult, and their whole thing is to perpetuate race mixing, and they call that freedom. They say that race mixing is the freedom that we're preserving. So they're not preserving a race; they're trying to destroy specifically the white races of America and Europe because that's what that does. The other races aren't stupid enough to do this, to be honest with you. The Chinese and the Koreans and the Japanese and the Africans and the Latin Americans, none of them are stupid enough to believe in race mixing because they're not stupid. They're not stupid people. But the white race, because we conquered the world in such a dramatic way with such high technology, then there were certain people that said, you owe the rest because you stole it all, and now you have to pay. And white people say, yeah, we care about these people. We want because we're nice, we have empathy. We said, okay, well, we want to help, and of course, they just took advantage of that to destroy us. And that's where we are now. We're at the end of that road. So either we extricate ourselves from this weird cult, this weird race mixing cult of the Federalist Society, or out of Washington, D.C., because it's really just Washington, D.C. There's a cult that rules Washington, D.C., and it's a race-mixing cult called the Jesuit Order, founded by the Romans, by Bishop Carroll and the Georgetown University. Either we extricate ourselves out of that, or we all get destroyed, because we're already being destroyed. It's already happening. We've already gotten destroyed by like 50-60% population reduction, just annihilation, and the remaining population is on drugs, stupid, criminal, perverted, illiterate. I'm talking about the white race. Particularly in North America, Canada, Western Europe, ruined, total ruins. And this is why. And it's not just that it was race mixing. It's just that's part of it. It's race mixing. It's drug addiction. It's getting you hooked on drugs. It's brainwashing you with the media. It's promoting criminality and perversion. It's all of it. Promiscuity. The whole design is to get you to die off because they want to kill you. So with that, I will end off and just want to remind you to dissolve the cult.